When hotshot young pilot Ricky Sullivan powered up the ancient human warship Prometheus, the Galactic Council races were about to get a violent reminder to never fuck with humanity again. Ricky had barely escaped with his life when notorious Lurian pirate leader Belos ambushed his cargo ship. Belos and the Lurians thought the attack would be easy pickings, but they made one big mistake. They pissed off the wrong human. Now Ricky was out for payback. He returned to Earth and scoured the military archives for anything to give humans an edge over the technologically superior Lurians. Hidden deep in the files, Ricky found a lead on the Prometheus, a legendary human dreadnought with firepower beyond imagining. Eons ago, human technology had surpassed all the galaxy's races before being lost to time. Until now. Ricky tracked the Prometheus to a secret moon base and convinced his friend, grizzled Admiral Hobb, to help crew the ship and take it before the Galactic Council. It was a long shot. No one knew if the ancient vessel would even fly. But when Ricky powered it up, the Prometheus roared to life, systems somehow still cutting edge. The awed human crew marveled at the indestructible nanocarbon hull, devastatingly lethal antimatter cannons and quantum torpedoes, all orchestrated by an elegant, sophisticated AI. Ricky piloted the Prometheus off the moon, setting course for Galactic Council HQ to give the aliens a shocking preview of humanity's resurgent might. But Lurian spies had tracked Ricky's movements. Hungry for vengeance, Counselor Belos moved to intercept and annihilate the upstart human's new threat. As the Prometheus hurtled toward its council debut, Ricky knew a brutal showdown with Belos loomed on the horizon. The Lurians' petty vendetta could wait. Ricky had a job to do. It was time to put the arrogant Galactic Council on notice. Humanity was back to take its rightful place among the stars, and this time, the galaxy's races had better think twice before crossing them again. The Prometheus hurtled through the void, its quantum engines leaving a trail of shimmering particles in its wake. Ricky, hands gripping the control panel, guided the ancient human warship toward the heart of the Galactic Council's domain. The crew buzzed with anticipation, their faces illuminated by the glow of the cutting-edge displays. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the bridge. "Captain, we've got company," Admiral Hobb growled, his eyes fixed on the sensor readings. Ricky's gaze snapped to the view screen. A fleet of Lurian ships, sleek and menacing, emerged from the darkness, blocking their path. At the center of the formation, a massive dreadnought bore the insignia of Counselor Belos himself. "Incoming transmission," the Prometheus AI announced, its melodic voice filling the room. Belos's holographic image materialized before them, his scaled features twisted in a sneer. "Surrender the Prometheus immediately, human. Your possession of this vessel violates every galactic treaty in existence." Ricky stood tall, meeting Belos's gaze. "I don't take orders from you, Counselor. The Prometheus is a testament to humanity's achievement, and I intend to present it to the full council. Stand aside." Belos snarled, his clawed hands clenching. "You dare defy me? The Lurian fleet will tear your ship apart piece by piece." With a flick of his wrist, Ricky terminated the transmission. He turned to his crew, his voice steady. "Battle stations. Let's show them what this ship can do." The Lurian fleet opened fire, a barrage of energy beams and missiles streaking toward the Prometheus. Ricky gritted his teeth, bracing for impact, but the ship barely shuddered as its advanced shields absorbed the onslaught. "Shields holding steady," Admiral Hobb reported, a hint of awe in his voice. "They can't touch us." Ricky's fingers danced across the controls, his eyes narrowing. "Let's send them a message. Arm quantum torpedoes and target the lead ship." The crew responded with practiced efficiency, their hands moving in perfect synchronization. The Prometheus shuddered as a single torpedo burst from its launch bay, the projectile glowing with an eerie blue light. The torpedo struck Belos's dreadnought dead center, the explosion blossoming like a miniature supernova. The Lurian ship disintegrated, reduced to a cloud of molten debris in an instant. Silence fell over the battlefield as the remaining Lurian ships hung motionless, their crews surely grappling with the magnitude of what they had just witnessed. Ricky leaned forward, his voice booming over the comm channel. This is your only warning, Counselor Bellos. Retreat now, or face the consequences. As if jolted from a trance, the Lurian fleet scattered, their engines flaring as they fled into the void. News of the confrontation spread like wildfire, rippling through the galactic network. With the immediate threat neutralized, Ricky resumed course for the Council headquarters. The Prometheus's comm system chimed incessantly as representatives from various alien races clamored for the humans' attention. Admiral Hobb leaned in, his brow furrowed. Careful, Ricky. We're in uncharted territory here. These races may say they want to ally with us, but we don't know their true intentions. Ricky nodded, his mind racing. You're right, Admiral, but this could be our chance to gather intel on the other races, to understand the lay of the land before we make our next move. As the Prometheus approached the Council headquarters, the sheer scale of the human warship became apparent. It dwarfed the other vessels present, its indestructible hull gleaming like a beacon of human resilience. The crew prepared to disembark, their uniforms crisp and their expressions resolute. They knew the weight of the moment, the importance of the task before them. But even as Ricky steeled himself for the impending confrontation with the Council, whispers reached his ears of a shadow alliance forming in the depths of the galaxy. Counselor Bellos, it seemed, had not been idle in his defeat. The stage was set for a showdown that would determine the fate of humanity and the very future of the galaxy itself. And at the center of it all stood Ricky Sullivan and the mighty Prometheus, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Ricky Sullivan strode into the Galactic Council chamber, his boots echoing on the polished floor. Alien delegates from across the cosmos turned to stare at the human and his crew. Ricky cleared his throat and addressed the assembly. Esteemed members of the Council, I stand before you today to speak on behalf of humanity. The Prometheus is our birthright, a testament to what we once were and can be again. We have no desire for conquest or subjugation. We seek only to protect ourselves and maintain balance in this vast galaxy we all call home. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Many counselors nodded, seemingly swayed by Ricky's words. But Counselor Bellos rose from his seat, scales gleaming under the chamber's lights. Pretty words, human. But we cannot allow such power to remain unchecked. The Prometheus must be turned over to the Council for safekeeping and study. It's the only way to ensure galactic security. Before Ricky could retort, a deafening explosion rocked the chamber. The floor buckled, throwing delegates to the ground. Acrid smoke filled the air as alarms blared. "We're under attack," someone shouted. Ricky locked eyes with Admiral Hobb. "Back to the ship! Now!" They sprinted through chaos-filled corridors, dodging panicked aliens and falling debris. As they neared the Prometheus's docking bay, they saw the attackers, Lurian extremists, armed to the teeth and hell-bent on destruction. "Those bastards are trying to frame us," Hobb growled. Ricky gritted his teeth. "Not if we stop them first." They fought their way to the Prometheus, the ship's AI greeting them as they boarded. Within moments, they were airborne, engaging the Lurian forces in a frenzied battle above the Council headquarters. Ricky's hands flew over the controls, the Prometheus responding like an extension of his own body. Quantum torpedoes streaked through space, decimating Lurian ships. The Prometheus's shields shrugged off return fire like raindrops. "We've got them outgunned and outmaneuvered," Hobb said, a note of awe in his voice. But their victory was short-lived. A transmission crackled through, revealing Lurian extremists in the Council chamber, weapons trained on terrified delegates. "Surrender the Prometheus humans, or we execute every last counselor." Ricky's mind raced. Give up the ship and lose humanity's best chance at reclaiming their place in the stars? Or fight on and risk the lives of innocent delegates? "I have a plan," Ricky announced. "Hobb, keep engaging the enemy out here. I'm taking a team to handle things inside." Moments later, Ricky and a small strike force materialized inside the Council chamber, courtesy of the Prometheus's advanced teleportation tech. The Lurians, caught off guard, whirled to face this new threat. A furious firefight erupted. Ricky and his team moved with practiced precision, their weapons cutting through the Lurian ranks. Delegates scrambled for cover as energy blasts crisscrossed the chamber. Ricky spotted Belos cowering behind an overturned table, a Lurian extremist holding a gun to his head. With a perfectly aimed shot, Ricky dropped the attacker, freeing the stunned counselor. "Consider us even," Ricky quipped, offering Belos a hand. With the chamber secured, Ricky transported back to the Prometheus. He and Hobb made short work of the remaining Lurian ships, sending the survivors fleeing into the depths of space. In the battle's aftermath, the Council convened an emergency session. Belos, shaken but resolute, addressed his fellow counselors. "We owe our lives to Captain Sullivan and his crew. I move that we recognize humanity as a full member of the galactic community, with all rights and protections therein." The motion passed unanimously. As the council erupted in applause, Ricky exchanged proud glances with his crew. They had done it. Humanity was back on the galactic stage. But Ricky knew their journey was just getting started. The secrets of the Prometheus still beckoned, promising new horizons and challenges yet to come. The applause in the council chamber had barely faded when Ricky's comm unit buzzed. His face fell as he read the incoming reports. Human colonies across the galaxy were under attack by Lurian extremists. "We've got trouble," Ricky said to Admiral Hobb. "Those Lurian bastards are hitting our people everywhere." Counselor Belos approached, his scaled face etched with concern. "Captain Sullivan, I owe you my life. Let me help put down this insurrection. I have intel on their base of operations, an uncharted nebula where they're amassing for a major strike." Ricky nodded grimly. "We need to hit them first, hard." Within hours, the Prometheus was back in space, leading a ragtag fleet of Allied ships. Some bore the insignia of races that had sneered at humanity just days ago. Now they flew alongside the ancient human warship, united against a common foe. As they entered the swirling gases of the nebula, proximity alarms blared. Lurian ships materialized from the cosmic mists, weapons blazing. "Evasive maneuvers!" Ricky shouted, his hands flying over the controls. The Prometheus dove and rolled, quantum torpedoes streaking from its launchers. Enemy vessels exploded in silent bursts of fire and debris. Admiral Hobb's voice cut through the chaos. "Sir, we're picking up strange energy readings. It's like nothing we've ever seen." Before Ricky could respond, a chilling transmission filled the bridge. A Lurian face appeared on screen, eyes gleaming with fanatical zeal. "I am Vrachis," the Lurian snarled. "Surrender the Prometheus now, or watch as we obliterate your homeworld and colonies. Our doomsday weapon will reduce your precious Earth to cosmic dust." Ricky's mind raced. They had to neutralize that weapon, and fast. "Prep for teleport," he ordered. "We're taking the fight to them." Moments later, Ricky materialized inside the Lurian base with a strike team. They found themselves face to face with the doomsday weapon, a massive construct pulsing with otherworldly energy. At its heart, an artificial singularity writhed and twisted. "Take out those guards!" Ricky shouted as Lurian forces swarmed towards them. Plasma bolts filled the air as the humans fought their way deeper into the facility. Suddenly, Vrachis himself appeared, brandishing a crackling energy sword. "You're too late, human," he sneered. "Our benefactors have granted us the power to reshape the galaxy. Humanity will kneel or be erased." Ricky raised his own weapon. "Not on my watch." The two leaders clashed in furious combat, trading blows as the battle raged around them. Ricky's training gave him an edge, but Vrachis fought with the desperation of a cornered animal. With a well-timed feint, Ricky knocked Vrachis' weapon aside and delivered a crushing blow. The Lurian leader crumpled to the ground. Ricky raced to the weapons control center, fingers flying over alien consoles. Warning klaxons filled the air as he initiated an overload sequence. "Time to go!" he shouted to his team. They sprinted for the extraction point as the artificial singularity began to destabilize. The Prometheus beamed them aboard just as the Lurian base imploded, consumed by the very power it had sought to control. In the aftermath, the remaining Lurian ships powered down their weapons, signaling their surrender. The combined fleet limped back to Galactic Council space, battered but victorious. Ricky stood once more before the assembled counselors, the weight of recent events evident in the lines on his face. Belos stepped forward, his voice solemn. "On behalf of the Lurian people, I pledge a new era of cooperation with humanity," the counselor declared. "We have seen the strength of your spirit, and we are humbled." Ricky nodded, but his mind was already racing ahead to the next challenge. Who were these mysterious benefactors that had armed the Lurians, and what other threats lurked in the vast, uncharted reaches of the galaxy? The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with activity as representatives from across the cosmos gathered for a historic session. Ricky Sullivan stood at the podium, his crisp uniform a stark contrast to the array of alien attire surrounding him. He cleared his throat, addressing the assembly. "Esteemed colleagues, I stand before you today as the first human ambassador to this council. Our journey here has been long and fraught with challenges, but together, we've overcome them." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Ricky's gaze swept across the chamber, noting the absence of Counselor Belos. In his place sat a young Lurian, her scales shimmering with an iridescent sheen. As Ricky concluded his speech, the new Lurian representative approached him, extending a hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Ambassador Sullivan, I'm Counselor Zara. Your actions during the extremist crisis saved countless lives. We owe you a great debt." Ricky shook her hand firmly. "Thank you, Counselor. I look forward to working with you to build a more stable galaxy." Their conversation was cut short as Admiral Hobb hurried over, his face etched with concern. He leaned in close, speaking in a hushed tone. "Ricky, we need to talk. Now." Moments later, they stood in a secure briefing room. Hobb activated a holographic display, revealing a series of strange energy signatures. "We've detected these anomalies in an uncharted sector. Our analysts think they're tied to the group that supplied the Lurians with the Doomsday weapon." Ricky studied the readouts, his brow furrowed. "The unseen ones. What do we know about them?" "Not much," Hobb admitted, "but their tech is beyond anything we've encountered. We need to investigate before they make another move." Ricky nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. "Assemble a task force. We'll take the Prometheus and check it out ourselves." Days later, the Prometheus dropped out of FTL on the edge of the uncharted sector. The bridge crew worked in tense silence, scanning the surrounding space. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," the sensor officer reported. It's a wormhole, artificial construction, unlike anything in our database." Ricky leaned forward, studying the swirling vortex on the main view screen. "Origin point?" "A small moon, sir. Heavily shielded facility on the surface." Admiral Hobbs' voice was grim. "Has to be the unseen ones. No one else has this kind of tech." Ricky's hands tightened on the armrests of his command chair. He knew the risks, but the potential payoff was too great to ignore. "Take us in. We're going through that wormhole." The Prometheus surged forward, its ancient hull shimmering as it plunged into the swirling maw of the wormhole. For a heart-stopping moment, reality seemed to twist and bend around them. Then, with a flash of light, they emerged into unknown space. Before anyone could catch their breath, alarms blared. The tactical officer's voice was tight with fear. "Multiple contacts. Swarm of unknown vessels closing fast." The view screen lit up with a cloud of sleek, deadly drones. They moved with impossible speed and precision, their weapons carving into the Prometheus's hull. "Evasive maneuvers," Ricky shouted. "Return fire!" The Prometheus spun and dove, its quantum torpedoes streaking out to meet the attackers. But for every drone they destroyed, two more seemed to take its place. Warning lights flashed across every console as systems began to fail. The ship shuddered under the relentless assault. "AI core compromised!" an engineer yelled. "We're losing control!" Ricky gripped his chair as the Prometheus listed to one side, adrift and vulnerable. He exchanged a grim look with Admiral Hobb. This might be the end. Suddenly, a new ship appeared on their sensors. It moved like lightning, tearing through the drone swarm with weapons beyond human understanding. In moments, the attackers were reduced to space debris. A transmission crackled through the damaged comm system. A figure appeared on screen, humanoid, but clearly alien, with silver skin and eyes that shimmered like starlight. "Greetings, humans of the Prometheus. I am Zareth of the Unseen Ones. Your ship is damaged, your crew in danger. We offer aid and repairs in exchange for an audience with your leaders. There is much we must discuss." Ricky hesitated, weighing their options. With the ship crippled and the crew at risk, there was really only one choice. He nodded to the comm officer. "This is Ambassador Ricky Sullivan. We accept your offer." As the Prometheus was enveloped in a tractor beam, Ricky felt a mix of anticipation and dread. Whatever came next would change everything they thought they knew about the galaxy and humanity's place in it. The Prometheus shuddered as the tractor beam pulled it into the cavernous docking bay of the Vixeri facility. Ricky Sullivan stood at the view screen, his eyes widening at the sight before him. The station dwarfed anything he'd ever seen, its sleek lines and pulsing energy conduits speaking of technology far beyond human understanding. "My God," Admiral Hobb breathed beside him. "It's like something out of a fever dream." As the ship settled into its berth, Ricky turned to his crew. "Stay alert. We don't know what we're walking into here." The airlock hissed open, revealing a tall, silver-skinned figure. Its eyes shimmered with an inner light as it regarded the humans. "Welcome, travelers," the being said, its voice melodious yet alien. "I am Crador, an elder of the Vixeri. Please follow me." Ricky nodded to Hobb and a small security detail. They fell in behind Crater, boots echoing on the polished floor as they delved deeper into the station. The corridors twisted and turned, each new vista more awe-inspiring than the last. Finally, they entered a vast chamber that took Ricky's breath away. At its center stood a towering monolith, its surface etched with strange symbols that seemed to writhe and shift before his eyes. Crador gestured towards the artifact. "This is the legacy of our ancestors, Ambassador Sullivan, a repository of knowledge and power beyond imagining." The Vixeri elders' words washed over Ricky as he explained their history, a tale of galactic dominion, near extinction, and centuries of patient rebuilding. "We've watched your species with great interest," Crador continued. "The Lurian crisis was a test, one you passed admirably." Ricky's head snapped up. "You gave them that weapon? Do you have any idea how many lives were lost?" Crador's expression remained impassive. "A regrettable but necessary step. We needed to be certain humanity was ready for what comes next." The Vixeri's offer hung in the air between them, unimaginable power and knowledge, but at the cost of Earth's autonomy. Ricky exchanged a troubled glance with Hobb, their minds racing with the implications. Before they could respond, klaxons shattered the tense silence. Red emergency lights bathed the chamber as Crador's communicator crackled to life. "Insurrectionists!" a panicked voice shouted. "They're trying to seize the artifact." Chaos erupted around them. Energy weapons flashed, actinic bolts searing the air. Ricky and his team dove for cover as two factions of Vixeri tore into each other. "We need to get back to the ship," Hobb shouted over the din. Ricky nodded, gesturing for his people to fall back. They fought their way through twisting corridors, the sounds of battle echoing all around them. Twice they were pinned down by insurrectionist forces, only to be saved by the quick thinking and deadly aim of Ricky's security team. As they neared the docking bay, a stray blast caught one of Ricky's officers in the leg. The man stumbled, crying out in pain. Ricky grabbed him, hauling the wounded soldier to his feet. "I've got you," Ricky grunted. "We're almost there." They burst into the docking bay, relief flooding through Ricky at the sight of the Prometheus. But that relief was short-lived as he saw the damage to the ancient warship. Scorch marks and hull breaches marred its surface, a grim reminder of their earlier battle. "Engineering!" Ricky barked into his communicator. "Status on the jump drive?" Static crackled, then a harried voice responded. "It's shot to hell, sir. We're working on it, but—" The transmission cut off as another explosion rocked the station. Ricky cursed, his mind racing for a solution. Suddenly, Crador appeared from a side passage, flanked by a handful of loyalists. The Vixeri elder's silver skin was marred with scorch marks, his eyes wild with urgency. "Ambassador," Krator called out, "you must take the artifact. If the insurrectionists claim it, the entire galaxy will burn." Ricky hesitated, the weight of the decision crushing down on him. Take the artifact and potentially doom humanity to servitude under the Vixeri? Or leave it behind and risk a catastrophic war? Time seemed to slow as Ricky weighed his options. The fate of Earth, of the entire galaxy, hanging in the balance. Ricky's eyes darted between Krator and the advancing insurrectionists. The decision crystallized in an instant. He tapped his comm link. "All hands, evacuate immediately. Prepare the Prometheus for emergency jump." He turned to his security team. "We're staying to secure the artifact." Gunfire erupted around them as they sprinted toward the central chamber. Ricky's boots pounded against the polished floor, his breath coming in ragged gasps. A bolt of energy sizzled past his ear, leaving an acrid smell in its wake. They rounded a corner and came face to face with a group of Vixeri loyalists. Krator stepped forward, silver skin gleaming under the emergency lights. "This way!" the elder Vixeri shouted, gesturing down a side corridor. The combined human Vixeri force pressed on, trading fire with the insurrectionists at every turn. The air filled with the whine of energy weapons and the sharp crack of human firearms. As they neared the artifact chamber, the very walls seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Ricky felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. They burst through the massive doors and beheld the artifact in all its terrible glory. The monolith towered above them, its surface writhing with alien symbols. Arcs of energy leapt from its surface, scorching the air. Ricky's eyes widened as he saw the insurrectionists gathered around the base, their hands outstretched as they channeled its power. "Stop them!" he roared, diving for cover as a wave of energy surged toward them. The chamber erupted into chaos. Ricky and Krator led their forces in a desperate assault, fighting tooth and nail to reach the artifact's controls. "Prometheus, we need fire support," Ricky shouted into his comm. Above them, Admiral Hobbs' voice crackled to life. "Copy that, Ambassador. Commencing orbital strikes." The station shuddered as precision blasts from the Prometheus carved a path through the insurrectionist defenses. Ricky seized the opportunity, leading a final push toward the control nexus. They reached the consoles, but Ricky's moment of triumph turned to ash in his mouth. The screens flashed with warning symbols, a countdown ticking away the seconds until catastrophe. "They've rigged it to overload," Krator said, his alien features etched with despair. Ricky's mind raced. There was no time to disarm it, no way to stop the chain reaction. Unless... He grabbed Krator's arm. "The Prometheus's jump drives. We can use them to create a containment field." Ricky's fingers flew over the console as he explained the process to Krator. The elder Vixeri nodded, understanding dawning in his shimmering eyes. As the facility began to tear itself apart around them, a shimmering bubble of energy enveloped the artifact. The Prometheus appeared above them, its ancient hull straining as it generated the wormhole. "Everyone in!" Ricky shouted, ushering his team and the loyalist Vixeri into the field. With a sound like reality itself tearing, they plunged into subspace. For an eternity compressed into a heartbeat, they tumbled through dimensions beyond human comprehension. Then, with a bone-jarring lurch, they emerged. The view screen showed only unfamiliar stars and the endless void of space. Ricky slumped in his chair, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. They had done it. They had saved the galaxy from annihilation. But as he looked at the artifact, still pulsing with unimaginable power within its containment field, he knew their trials were far from finished. The weight of what came next settled on his shoulders. Harness the artifact's power for humanity's benefit, or find a way to neutralize it forever. Either choice could reshape the future of their entire species. Ricky gazed out at the unfamiliar stars, the magnitude of the decision before him seeming to stretch into infinity. The stars stretched endlessly beyond the Prometheus's viewports, unfamiliar constellations taunting them with their alienness. Inside the ship's conference room, voices rose in heated debate. We can't just ignore this power. Lieutenant Zhang banged his head on the table. Think of what we could accomplish. Admiral Hobbs shook his head. And risk destroying everything? It's too dangerous. Ricky Sullivan rubbed his temples, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. The artifact pulsed within its containment field, its alien energies a constant reminder of both promise and peril. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Unknown energy signature detected. The tactical officer's voice crackled over the comm. Ricky sprinted to the bridge, the others close behind. On the main view screen, a battered hulk of a ship drifted lifelessly. Magnify, Ricky ordered, his eyes widening as he saw the faded markings. That's impossible. Admiral Hobb leaned forward, his face pale. The Cavalier, after all this time. Hours later, Ricky stood in the medbay, watching as the cryopod hissed open. Captain Marcus Drexler's eyes fluttered, confusion giving way to panic as he gasped for air. Easy, Captain, Ricky said, helping the man sit up. You're safe now. Drexler's gaze darted around the room, his voice hoarse. The Zircall! Where are they? As Drexler recounted his horrifying tale, Ricky felt a chill run down his spine. The captain's haunted eyes spoke of terrors beyond imagination. They're still there, Drexler whispered. In the ship. Waiting. Alarms blared once again. On the bridge, screens flashed red as the Cavalier's systems began to fail. We can't let them escape, Ricky said, his mind racing. He turned to the chief engineer. The artifact. Can we use it to create a prison? The next hours passed in a blur of frantic activity. Ricky's hands flew over control panels, sweat beading on his brow as he worked to modify the artifact's containment field. Beside him, Drexler coordinated with the engineering team, his centuries of isolation forgotten in the heat of the moment. A violent tremor shook the ship. The Zircall are aware of us, Drexler said, his face tight with concentration. They're fighting back. Ricky watched in horror as crew members turned on each other, their eyes glazed and unfocused. He tackled an ensign before she could fire her weapon, wresting the gun from her hands. Focus, people, he shouted. Don't let them in your heads. With a bone-jarring lurch, the subspace vortex opened, a swirling maelstrom of energy. Ricky activated the modified containment field, projecting it into the vortex. Alarms screamed as the Cavalier's warp core began to overload. Ricky's fingers danced across the controls, severing connections and rerouting power. Now, he yelled. The vortex imploded, taking the Zircall consciousness with it. For a moment, silence reigned on the bridge. Then slowly cheers erupted. Ricky slumped in his chair, exhaustion washing over him. They had won, but at what cost? As the crew celebrated their victory, Ricky's gaze drifted to the artifact, still pulsing with otherworldly power. The debate over its fate was far from finished. And deep within the sealed prison, unnoticed by all, a faint flicker of psionic energy pulsed, a warning of challenges yet to come. The faint psionic pulse within the sealed prison grew stronger, unnoticed by the celebrating crew. Ricky's eyes snapped to the artifact, its otherworldly glow casting eerie shadows across the bridge. We need to decide what to do with this thing, he said, his voice cutting through the cheers. Admiral Hobbs stepped forward, his face grim. It's too dangerous. We should destroy it or lock it away forever. Ricky shook his head. No. This is our chance to secure humanity's future. Think of what we could learn, what we could become. As debate raged, Lieutenant Zhang's voice cut through the din. Sir, I'm detecting an energy spike from the Zircall prison. Ricky rushed to the sensor display, his heart pounding. The readings were unmistakable. The alien consciousness was regaining strength, reaching out with tendrils of psionic energy. We're out of time, Ricky said, his mind racing. We need to act now. I have a plan. He outlined his idea rapidly, gesturing to the artifact and the ship's systems. Admiral Hobbs' face darkened with each word. It's too risky, Hobb argued. We could tear reality apart. And if we do nothing, the Zircall will break free, Ricky countered. This is our only chance. The crew worked feverishly, rerouting power and modifying systems. Ricky's hands flew over the controls, interfacing the artifact with the Prometheus's jump drive. Energy crackled around them as a shimmering rift began to form. The very fabric of space-time twisted and warped. "Dimensional gateway stabilizing," Zhang reported, his voice tense. Ricky nodded. "Take us in, nice and easy." The Prometheus edged forward, the rift's energy washing over its hull. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Massive psionic surge," Zhang shouted. The ship bucked violently. Crew members were thrown from their stations as a wave of alien consciousness slammed into them. "The Zircall!" Ricky yelled. "They're trying to break free!" The rift collapsed around them, reality twisting into impossible shapes. Ricky clung to his console as the Prometheus was wrenched through dimensions beyond human comprehension. After an eternity of madness, they emerged into a vast alien realm. Swirling energies of impossible colors surrounded them. The laws of physics seemed to bend and break with each passing moment. Ricky staggered to his feet, surveying the damage. Sparks flew from shattered consoles. The artifact's containment field flickered dangerously. "Status report," he called out. Zhang's voice was shaky. "Multiple hull breaches. Life support at 60%. Sir, the Zircall prison is destabilizing." Ricky felt a presence pushing at the edges of his mind, alien thoughts seeping through the cracks in his consciousness. He looked around, seeing confusion and mistrust spreading across the faces of his crew. "Listen to me," he shouted. "The Zircall are in our heads. We need to get to the artifact chamber now." Ricky led a small team through the twisting corridors of the damaged ship. Crew members turned on each other, their eyes glazed and unfocused. They fought their way to the chamber, battling both the ship's failures and their own treacherous impulses. As they entered, Ricky saw a shimmering form coalescing before the artifact. The Zircall avatar turned, its features a constantly shifting mask of alien malevolence. "You've played your part well, human," it hissed. "We've waited eons for this moment." Ricky raised his weapon. "This ends now." The chamber erupted into chaos. Energy blasts and psionic assaults filled the air. Ricky and his loyal crew fought desperately, pushing through waves of mental anguish to reach the artifact's controls. With a final surge of effort, Ricky slammed his hand down on the activation sequence. The artifact pulsed, raw power flooding through the ship's systems. The Zircall avatar screamed, its form twisting as it was pulled back into its prison. The containment field stabilized, sealing the alien consciousness away once more. Ricky slumped against the console, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. He looked out the viewport at the impossible realm surrounding them. The Prometheus drifted, crippled and alone in an alien universe. Resources were dwindling. The Zircall threat still lurked, waiting for another chance to break free. Ricky stood facing his battered crew. "We're not done yet," he said. "We need to find a way home." Ricky stared out the viewport, his eyes straining to make sense of the impossible geometries that surrounded the Prometheus. Swirling vortexes of energy pulsed with colors that had no names in human language. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of forces it was never designed to withstand. "Damage report," Ricky called out, his voice hoarse from hours of shouting orders. Lieutenant Zhang's fingers danced across his console. "Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7. Life support systems at critical levels. We've got maybe 2 days of breathable air left, sir." Ricky nodded grimly. He'd expected as much. "And the artifact?" "Containment field is holding, but power fluctuations are increasing. If we don't find a way out of here soon..." Zhang's words trailed off, but the implication was clear. If the containment field failed, the Zircall would be unleashed upon this alien realm, and potentially find a way back to their own universe. A sudden tremor rocked the ship, sending crew members sprawling. Ricky grabbed the edge of a console to keep his footing. What was that? "Unknown energy signature dead ahead," Zhang reported, his eyes widening. "Sir, you need to see this." The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a massive structure looming before them. It defied description, a twisting, fractal shape that seemed to fold in on itself endlessly. Pulses of energy radiated from its core, each wave distorting the very fabric of space-time around it. "My God," Ricky breathed. "What is that thing?" Chief Engineer Vasquez spoke up, her voice tinged with awe. "Sir, I'm picking up readings similar to the artifact. This structure, it's operating on the same principles. If we can interface with it, we might be able to open a gateway home," Ricky finished. He turned to face his battered crew, seeing hope flicker in their eyes for the first time in days. "All right, people, this is our shot. Vasquez, prep a shuttle. Zhang, you're with me. We're going in." Minutes later, Ricky piloted the shuttle towards the alien relic, fighting against waves of disorienting energy. As they drew closer, a vast opening yawned before them, pulsing with otherworldly light. "I've never seen anything like this," Zhang muttered, his hands shaking as he worked the sensor controls. "The energy readings are off the charts." Ricky guided the shuttle into the structure's maw, navigating twisting corridors that seemed to defy Euclidean geometry. Finally, they emerged into a vast chamber. At its center stood a pillar of pure energy, surrounded by floating consoles covered in symbols that hurt the eyes to look at directly. "This has to be it," Ricky said, his heart pounding. "The control center." As they approached the consoles, a searing pain lanced through Ricky's skull. He stumbled, crying out as alien thoughts invaded his mind. "The Zircon," he gasped. "They know we're here." Zhang's eyes glazed over, his movements becoming jerky and uncoordinated. "Must stop you," he growled, reaching for his sidearm. Ricky dove for cover as Zhang opened fire, energy bolts sizzling past his head. "Zhang, fight it!" But it was no use. The lieutenant advanced, his face twisted in a rictus of alien hatred. Ricky's hand closed around his own weapon, his finger tightening on the trigger. A blast rang out and Zhang crumpled to the floor. Admiral Hobbs stood in the shuttle's hatchway, his pistol still smoking. "Ricky," Hobbs said, his voice strained. "We don't have much time. The Zircon, they're trying to break free." Ricky nodded, pushing aside his grief for Zhang. He turned back to the alien controls, his fingers moving with desperate speed. Somehow, whether through intuition or some remnant of the Zircon's influence, he began to understand the system's logic. A scream of pain made him whirl around. Hobb was on his knees, blood seeping from a wound in his side. One of the shuttle's crew, now clearly under Zircon control, stood over him with a blood-stained knife. Ricky fired, dropping the possessed crewman. He rushed to Hobbs' side, but the Admiral waved him off. "Finish it," Hobb gasped, his breathing labored. "Whatever it takes, Ricky. Stop them. Save humanity." With a final rattling breath, Admiral Hobb went still. Ricky stood, his face etched with grief and fury. He turned back to the consoles, working with revitalized commitment. Energy crackled around him as he initiated the gateway sequence. A deafening roar filled the chamber. The pillar of energy pulsed, and a rift tore open in the air before them. Through it, Ricky could see the familiar stars of their home universe. But something was wrong. The rift flickered unstably, and Ricky could feel the Zircon consciousness pushing against the weakening containment field. "No," he whispered. "Not when we're so close." In that moment, Ricky knew what he had to do. He opened a channel to the Prometheus. "This is Sullivan," he said, his voice steady despite the fear gripping his heart. "I've opened a gateway back to our universe. All hands, prepare for immediate evacuation." "But sir," Vasquez's voice crackled over the comm, "what about you?" Ricky's hands flew over the controls, rerouting power from the shuttle systems into the artifact's containment field. Someone has to stay behind to keep the gateway stable and the Zircon contained. Get everyone through that rift, Chief. That's an order. He could hear the anguish in Vasquez's voice. "Understood, sir. It's been an honor." One by one, Ricky watched as shuttles from the Prometheus streaked through the rift. With each passing moment, he could feel his own life force draining, pouring into the containment field. The chamber shook violently, A towering figure of pure energy began to coalesce, the avatar of the Sci-Fi consciousness. It loomed over Ricky, its form twisting and writhing. Ricky stood tall, staring defiantly into the face of an alien god. "You lose," he snarled. "Humanity will—"
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.